All right, let's dive into one of the biggest puzzles in early Islamic history. We're talking about a peace treaty that, let's be honest, looks a whole lot like a surrender. It's a story about grand strategy, devastating betrayal, and a single decision that would change everything for centuries to come. And that's the big question, right? You have Imam Hasan, the legitimate caliph, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, and he's supposedly got this massive army behind him. But instead of fighting his rival, Muawiya, he chooses peace. I mean, it just doesn't add up. To really get why, we have to look past the numbers and see what was actually going on with that army. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the year 41 after Hijrah, or 661 CE. Imam Ali has just been assassinated, and the people of Kufa have pledged their allegiance to his son Imam Hasan. He is the rightful heir, the designated successor, no question about it. He's the legitimate leader. But of course, it's never that simple, is it? Out in Syria, the governor, Muawiyah, refuses to accept Imam Hasan's leadership. And he doesn't just refuse. He gathers his army and marches straight for Iraq. This is a direct challenge, and a massive civil war is brewing. So that brings us to the first massive piece of this puzzle, that army. Because, an army is only as good as its will to fight. And Imam Hasan's was, well, it was built on shaky ground, to say the least. On paper, things look great. Historical sources say he had a force of 40,000 soldiers. 40,000! That sounds like a powerhouse. So what's the catch? Well, here's the real question, the one that changes everything. Of those 40,000 soldiers, how many were actually ready to fight and die for Imam Hasan? And the answer? Well, it's pretty shocking. It was not a lot. The thing is, you can't even call this one army. It was more like 4 different groups all crammed together, each with its own agenda. You had the true Shia, who were loyal to the core, but they were a small minority. Then you had the Kharijites, who hated both leaders and basically wanted to fight everyone. You had opportunists, guys who were just there for the loot. And finally, you had tribal loyalists, who listened to their chiefs, not the caliph. This whole thing was a house of cards just waiting to fall. And look, this wasn't some new, surprising problem. Imam Hasan inherited this exact issue from his father. This quote from Imam Ali just hits you. You can feel the frustration. He's talking to the very same Kufan forces, known for their disobedience and lack of conviction. This was the foundation Imam Hasan had to build on. And all this internal chaos, it was like a giant welcome sign for a cunning operator like Muawiya. He knew he didn't have to win a straight-up fight. He could just break the army from the inside out, using deception. See, Muawiya's real weapons weren't swords, they were whispers, spies, and a whole lot of cash. He started spreading rumors that Imam Hasan secretly wanted peace anyway. At the same time, he was sending spies to his commanders, offering them massive bribes to just switch sides. So Imam Hasan sends out his elite unit, right? 12,000 of his absolute best soldiers to go and meet Muawiya's advance. This was his vanguard, led by his own cousin. This was supposed to be the unbreakable tip of the spear.
But Muawiya doesn't even bother fighting them. He goes straight for the commander, Ubaidullah, and sends him a letter with a 1 million dirham bribe. And the message is just cold, calculated cynicism. Look, Hasan's gonna lose anyway. Join me now, be a leader on the winning team instead of a nobody on the losing one.
And it worked, just like that. Ubaidullah took the money and deserted in the middle of the night. And 8,000 soldiers, that's 2/3 of the elite force, went with him. The tip of the spear, gone. Not because of a battle, but because of a bag of money. The fallout from this was instant and catastrophic. When word got back to the main camp, it was a total meltdown. The army literally turned on its own leader. They raided Imam Hasan's tent, stole everything, and one of his own men actually stabbed him in the thigh. The entire army had just imploded. Okay, so let's just pause and picture this. Imam Hasan is betrayed. He's physically wounded, and he's surrounded by what's left of an army that clearly doesn't want to fight for him and might even kill him. He has to make a choice. So what does Imam Hasan do? He gets his remaining troops together and lays it all on the line. He tells them, look, Muawiya is offering something without dignity or justice. If you want to die as martyrs, we'll fight to the end. But if you want to live, we'll accept the offer. He put the choice right in their hands. And the answer he got back? It was loud and it was crystal clear. From every direction, the soldiers started yelling, life, life, make peace. That was it. It was undeniable.
He was a general with no army. To keep fighting would just be a pointless massacre of the few who were still loyal. And you can hear the reality of the situation in his own words. He said, "By Allah, if I had supporters, I would fight day and night." This wasn't about being scared. This was about looking at the cold, hard facts. He had no other move to make.
But this is where the story gets really interesting, because this treaty, it wasn't a surrender. You could almost call it a different kind of weapon. If he couldn't beat Muawiya on the battlefield, maybe he could expose him using the terms of peace itself. Just look at the terms he put on the table. He made Muawiya agree to rule by the Quran and Sunnah, to guarantee safety for everyone, to stop the awful practice of cursing Imam Ali in the mosques, and this is the big one, to return power to Imam Hasan after he died. You see what he did there? It's a brilliant trap designed to hold Muawiya to a standard everyone knew he would never meet. And boy, did Muawiya walk right into it. As soon as the treaty was signed, he rides into Kufa, gets up in front of everyone, and basically says, "That treaty? All those promises I made? Yeah, they're under my feet. I'm not doing any of it." He showed his true colors for the entire world to see.
And right there, that's the genius of the whole plan, at least according to this view. The treaty's real success was in being broken. It exposed Muawiya's government for what it was, a worldly kingdom, not a religious caliphate. It saved the lives of the true believers who were left. And, crucially, by unmasking this tyranny, it set the stage for Imam Hasan's brother, Imam Hussein, to make his legendary stand years later. So it all comes down to this. Imam Hasan didn't win a military victory, but you could argue he won a much bigger moral and strategic one. It forces you to ask, is it possible for an act that looks like a total defeat to actually be the move that secures a far more important victory in the long run?